Hello and welcome to All Right, Now What? I'm your host, Andrea Gunraj, for the Canadian Women's Foundation. Gender equality and justice where we live, work, learn, and play is the goal, and it makes life better for everyone. This podcast is our chance to connect with insightful people and explore what it'll take to get there in Canada. The work of the Canadian Women's Foundation and its partners takes place on traditional First Nations, Métis, and Inuit territories. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet and work on this land. However, we recognize that land acknowledgements are not enough. We need to pursue truth, reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship in an ongoing effort to make right with all our relations.
Let's say you're walking home one night, listening to some casual Beethoven, as one does. If you're a man, there's a good chance you'll hear it just like this. If you're not a man, there's a good chance you'll hear it more like this. Because women and gender diverse people are expected to always keep one ear to the ground to reduce their chances of being attacked. Does that sound right to you? Visit awarepod.com to learn more and help fight gender-based violence.
I'm here today with Jenn Harper of Cheekbone Beauty, and my first question for you, Jenn. I want to know what kind of gender equality changemaker you are. I want you to share your results and let me know what you thought about it. Were you surprised, confused, delighted, upset? Share.
Yeah, so according to this quiz, I am a connector and a creative change maker. I guess that's what it's calling me. I've never done a quiz like that, so had no idea what to expect, but I guess it sounds like me. I am definitely not a challenger in the sense, so that made a lot of sense. I always say, because a lot of times they like to give people titles, right? And I don't know, when you're Indigenous, all of a sudden you're an activist. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not. I'm just like built a business and doing a job and all the things that I guess come along with that. Um, in some sense makes me stand out or feel like I'm doing something differently, but I feel like I'm just being myself.
So important to be true to yourself regardless. And I find it so interesting, people's reactions to the quizzes. Sometimes they say, I don't like these labels, or they'll say, that sounds 100% like me. So I like to hear that you're living your life, you're doing what you do. And I think it brings us to my next question for you, your deepest learnings. If you had to boil down yourself to core life lessons, how would you share with the listeners what you would say your core life lesson is that you're bringing forward to your work today, and how that connects perhaps with gender equality or gender justice in Canada?
The thing that I'm most proud of, and maybe it's not sort of maybe who sometimes we originally think we are, but through the brand and being able to build this and then find myself in spaces that I never thought I would be, is this idea of, if we see someone who comes from a place like we do doing something that they never thought possible, when we see people doing that, it really helps the next generation or people believe that something like that is possible for them. So whether it be other women entrepreneurs, other Indigenous people, youth, just seeing me building something and work with the organizations that we get to work with has been really empowering. And I know that that was part of the initial plan, but I guess you don't know how it's going to play out until you're in it. And so I think that's what I feel like one of those core life lessons for me is, of how important that truly is. And I've shared this before, over the 10 years that I've been doing this, really talking about representation and how much it matters. Now, I think I've certainly got to feel it on my own and realize, oh, wow, this is really important and powerful for younger Indigenous women in particular. Those are the ones I feel like I get the most messages from and hear feedback from, and it's working. I feel like our entrepreneurial spaces within our Indigenous communities growing, and of course so much more work to do, and no one single human will ever be the solver of all the problems. Most certainly no. I think we make more messes as humans than anything else. However, if it's possible through one person's path, other people can see their path, then that's fantastic. And I feel like that has definitely been one of the life lessons for me. And, you know, I get to do this and it's still the job, but I get to do it. And I feel like that's just an opportunity for next generations to see what's possible for sure.
You raise a question for me. Can you share any of the feedback that you've been getting that had made you say, yes, that's it? Light bulb moment. This is what we've been talking about, and I'm seeing it play out.
Yeah, so there is actual data thanks to, I always get these acronyms mixed up, but it's an Indigenous business organization, CCIB. And I think in the last, 5 years, we've seen a real increase in Indigenous businesses and entrepreneurship. So I think that's really exciting. And then also, me personally hearing feedback from, honestly, just I think that how it makes people feel to see our brand on a shelf in a store. For generations, nothing like that has happened. And it's really interesting that e-commerce has sort of that leveled the playing field. But what's really interesting for folks is just walking into, I guess, these bigger places and seeing brands that are built by people like them. It really means something. And whether that's possibility, whether that's change in general, um, these are the messages that I'm receiving back.
That's so wonderful. As you were speaking, I was thinking about your advertisement. You had a short commercial, and it is. I remember seeing it the first time and thinking, I've never seen a commercial like this. It made me cry. It was first beautifully done and had beautiful poetry in it, and just rendered really beautifully. But for me, the key message was, we're here, and we can't be stopped. And I remember just feeling so touched by it. And I'm so jaded by advertising, but that one broke right through because I'd never seen anything like it. So what you're saying is resonating with me. I think it changes so many lives to just see yourself represented, but then also see stories, hidden stories, suppressed voices, saying, "Yeah, I'm here. You can't stop me. You tried and you failed." It was just so touching and unexpected. So thank you for that.
The poem is beautiful. Yeah, that's Zoe Roy's poem, and it's that one line where they tried so hard to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds, right? Like, how powerful is that line?
So fantastic, and that you put it in your advertisement. I think that made everybody just snap up and say, I want to buy this product. I want to be a part of this. Maybe I can start my own business. Maybe I can do my own thing too." It's just so inspiring.
Yeah, and we're feeling that, and and not immediately. It's been 10 years, and so now when I have these conversations, it's the evidence of time, how things require patience, how how long of a game this really is going to be. Like, this is not a flash in the pan moment. Just recognizing I'm trying to build the brand to be here for a long time versus, media can make us believe all sorts of things, even women in business, about how things have to happen so quickly and fast. And if you're not a unicorn, you don't matter, right? And those are those crazy businesses and valuations we hear in all these business spaces. And I'm just recognizing I want to build a business that means something and matters, and we know we're doing that, but we also want it to be here for a long time, so we're not going to fall and play to the trends, the marketing speak. Like, we spent the last 5 years really focused on product, and I feel like we are in the last 18 months really at that position where we've understand product market fit, which was the missing piece for us for a long time. And now our goal is, operations internally and finance, and figuring that portion out so that we can exist and be here for a much longer time than even I envisioned in the early days. And that sounds really strange, but it's the I think the older I get, the wiser I get about the importance of building things to last. And it's really speaks to the kind of brand we are, because we do so much speaking about sustainability, that's just not an environmental subject. It's also community, it's also business related. Like, there's so many pieces to that, right?
playing the long game. It's quite refreshing to hear you talk about that. I do wonder, if you had to boil down, it sounds like you're passionate about so many different things that are all interrelated. If you had to say what you're most passionate about, what would you say? How would you share that to your listeners?
Product for sure. Whereas, and when I did the quiz, and it obviously high on the creativity level there, that's where we get to be creative and play and really think about, this whole industry. We're really, it's like we're in this river swimming upstream. The beauty industry is going this way, talking about newness, and it's just pumping after blush, foundation after foundation. And we like have built these core products, and they're still the same ones we're talking about. And we're going against the system of the beauty industry norms in that, no, we want to make products that are there's multiple uses for the customer. This is maybe a componentry or packaging that will last them more than a lifetime. They're going to pass it on to somebody else because it's refillable and reusable. And so all of these things where we're not pushing that newness, buy narrative. It's more, okay, here's our products. And we recognize, obviously, for a business to function and exist for the long term, not only do you need your loyal core customers, but we also need new ones. And then I've also struggled. You're in this space where um, it's like, okay, but the marketing part of it is pushing people to buy things. But for us, it's like, can you imagine we are capturing these new customers that are buying from brands that we know have the ability to do things much better and just aren't, right? And so that's that's how we envision growth. And if we can make those changes, because once you join our Cheekbone Beauty community, we're here to educate and really support this concept of sustainability through transparency and authenticity. And that means really telling and sharing with you, okay, this is not a black and white issue. You know, we're not going to vilify certain packaging or ingredients, but we're going to have conversations about them and why we've made these decisions. And really, I think the consumer is getting more educated, but we still live in a world where it's just loaded with all kinds of washing, whether it's greenwashing, clean washing, whatever we're calling it. So if we're on this path with them, then we're just going to build and grow that way by building and growing our community of people, and know that there's so many more people out there yet to discover the brand. And that's how we intend on being here for the long term. And while that is happening, if we're like, when I think about change, I would love the industry to change and recognize, okay, maybe the focus should not be this old model of just answering to stakeholders in spite of paying attention to the impacts of the planet and people, right? Like, can we think about business models in a different way? Right now, no, this is how it exists. But there are brands like Cheekbone Beauty. We're not the only one here that really puts people and planet first. There's lots of us, really, but much smaller than the giant conglomerates that do focus on stakeholder profits over everything else. And can we get the whole world to stop paying attention to those and come pay attention to us little guys here that are doing things differently?
What I love about this is that it is about positive pressure, and it's in a sense, a bit bottom up, given the massiveness of the industry. And I do appreciate your logic around being there with the customer as a journey. It's a community. It is not just, people paying into your product, a pipeline. You're speaking such intentionality. Tell me more about this intentional approach to business, because it does make me feel that you do have to have a passion for that intentionality.
Yeah, we really do live in a different world in the sense that people who are starting businesses or brands, we're starting to see more faces of founders and people behind these things. And I think that's really what the customer is craving. It's because for so long we were buying things, and do we even know really? It's not just a transaction at the checkout. There's so much more behind that. And I think people really want to know, and we're really seeing the power of that. So that's why we've been really open and honest about that. And it is possible. Like, these are, it was, I feel like the early days, it was all an experiment at Cheekbone Beauty. We're like hypothesizing everything, like, well, what if we tried this? Could this work? And the truth really is, if you built your own thing, you can build it how you like. I don't have to go to a team of lawyers like these giant conglomerates do to speak to you on a podcast, right? Like I'm just telling you authentically who we are and what we're doing. And I hope, the hope is, and that's like the big portion, is like when people learn about us and find us, and they want to become a part of a community that is looking at this. And then what you'll find is when you find brands that do this, you'll learn even more that there is even a bigger community behind them. When I said I know there's other founders that are doing things this way as well and speaking about it. And so I feel like I'm hopeful because I know that there's people like us that are working on these things with that intentionality behind all of the things we're doing. We've done it in this unique way because we've really taken my culture, my Indigenous roots. I'm Ojibwe, which is the Anishinaabe people. We have something called the 7 grandfather teachings. We have seven generations teachings. We have teachings about so many different parts of the human everyday life and how we've incorporated that into the building of the brand. Because when we were in these experiments in the early days, is like, what if we use those as our core values of a business? Every company in the big spaces has core values. Well, let's base ours on our Indigenous roots. And that's really helped us and led us and been like a guiding map for us, if you will, in the sense of like, oh, is someone joined the organization? Are they really applying these core values to, like, if I, have an interview with someone and then, we all know that we're investigating people through social media, that, I don't judge how everyone shops, but it would just be like, that's in opposition of kind of what we're trying to do. So it plays a big role, and you can build something. If you're the builder, you can build something. And this can even happen within organizations. I really believe that people have a lot of ability to create the sort of life and work that they want. It's really just taking those steps upon yourself to do it.
You bring me to the last question so beautifully. All right, now what? You're saying the possibilities are endless. You have to move towards it. You have to be intentional about it. You have to not be in it by yourself. You have to be values driven, and you have to bring others along with you because you're not an island and you can't do it alone. I'm hearing all these things from you. Share with me a powerful takeaway for our listeners, with something based on what you're speaking here. How can they take these wonderful things you're saying and maybe apply it to themselves so that they can be better gender equality change makers?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes change feels very hard, especially if you were ever to turn on the media or something like that. It can feel frustrating and daunting. And I think it all starts with just ourselves, our homes, our families. And then that's where it makes the extension into community, right? It's like you get to choose who you want to be. And do you want to be the positive person who, as well as being realistic, we don't want sort of the toxic positivity or this like overwhelming, like, right? Like that can also be frustrating because we're real people here, with real problems. But I believe that it really starts with us and really deciding, and as a parent and as an individual, you decide what kind of value system you want to live. And that is where you can begin, because then you will be able to break things down more simply. So that for me, the biggest takeaway is, number one, when we do want something to happen, consistency. I always say, Cheekbone is only been successful because I've woken up every day for the last 10 years and have done something to work on it. And it's not, I'm no greater skilled than anyone. I don't have anything special happening, except I'm just really passionate about this business and this brand being in the world. And that's consistency. Like over time, it's like compound interest. We just see it building and building, but you don't see it until you look back. But you have to start somewhere. And so you can start today.
All right, now what? If you want to make sure no woman, girl, two-spirit, trans, or non-binary person feels out of options, out of sight, out of time, or out of mind, visit yescountmein.ca. When you count yourself in, you'll join over 104,000 people in the Canadian Women's Foundation's community. You'll get tools and opportunities to advance gender equality. This movement needs you. Visit yescountmein.ca and count yourself in today. Please listen, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you appreciate this content, please consider becoming a donor to the Canadian Women's Foundation. People like you will make the goal of gender equality a reality. Visit CanadianWomen.org to give today, and thank you for your support.